Coming to you from sunny Orlando, Florida, welcome to the Paperstac podcast, where we cover current topics in the note industry, give you tactics for your note business, and talk with industry leaders to make you a better note investor. And now, your hosts, Brett Berkey and Rick Allen.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Paperstac podcast. I am Brett Berkey. This is Rick Allen.
That's me.
That's right. Back for episode 134,
something.
Yeah.
North of 100.
North of 100. So we are officially in summer. So we just got back from DME about a week ago. Great turnout. If you missed it, a lot of cool people, different crowd. It was pretty neat. Nathan did a good job. A lot of people invited. It was more seller finance focused, which was neat because it actually for note closings it was perfect because that's really what note closings caters to. So it's a good time. Nashville's fun. I just got back from Gatlinburg too. So I've been in Nashville twice in the same month. So
You went to Nashville?
well, that's where DME is.
I know, but did you went there again?
No, I went to Gatlinburg.
So you went to Tennessee twice in the same month, not Nashville twice.
Did I just say Nashville? I'm in Tennessee. Yes, that's my first time ever driving.
Pick right up where we left off.
Yeah, just driving on mountain roads, man.
Oh my gosh, hearing the story about you, telling me you're like, I was driving up this road and it was so narrow and I thought I was going to crash off the side, to find out that it was a two-way paved road, just made me shake my head.
It was scary. Coming from Florida, like I've never done it before, and so ironically, my wife's like, oh look, now we're only going to go to beach vacations. I'm like, yes, fine. You want to go to Destin next? Fine. We'll go to the Bahamas next. And like Arizona, I'm cool with. Texas, I don't know. Those mountain roads are different. But anyhow, so something we have on our site that comes across, frequently, and we don't currently have a feature for it because there's so many technicalities to how it works in terms of calculating the yield and all the other things like that, maturity, blah, blah, blah. So we just tell people to put it in the seller comments as if you have a balloon. And that balloon on the note, it's an interesting thing because if you think about it, if you're not in the note investing all the time, you just wonder, like, who as a borrower would want a balloon? Like when you got a couple years where you're making a normal payment, all of a sudden you got to come out of pocket a whole bunch. Like, what? As a borrower, I would be like, no. Why would I want a balloon? Like, because your scary day is going to come here sooner than you think, and people procrastinate.
Okay, so usually the borrower's not asking for the balloon.
Okay.
Usually the borrower's not saying, you know what, I would love to have a balloon. Borrowers would be like, look, I'm going to pay this off over as long a time as possible.
Right.
What happens is the seller says, we're going to put a balloon payment in here as a way to shorten the time period in which they're getting paid off. It makes the note more marketable. If I could get all my money back, make a bunch of interest and do it over a 5-year period or a 7-year period versus waiting for 360 months or a 30-year period, which would you rather do?
Yeah, that makes sense for the lender.
Yeah, and so usually the borrowers don't have another option. So the lender will say, look, I'm going to give you this balloon, and the borrower said, well, if that's what I have to do to get the loan, we'll do it.
So as a borrower, like all I'm doing from day one is I'm trying to figure out how long until I can refinance. Really, that's really what
And
you're
that's
doing.
really and that's the motivation. Or if it's a short term, think about this. All hard money loans are balloon payments, right? So a balloon payment's not necessarily just for the lenders, like, oh, how am I going to get paid back? The buyers or the borrowers usually know that there's a balloon. Well, they always know there's a balloon, but it's used a lot in short-term loans.
I could see that.
Short-term investment loan, because if it were a 3-year loan amortized over 3 years, you can imagine what your monthly payment would be.
Right, but usually with those, when we were doing hard money, that person that you're lending to is usually an investor, and they're trying to get a fix and flip going, and they're going to try to get marketed it so they can sell it and then pay you off.
Exactly.
Right, so that makes sense for that, but as a borrower in a house, I can see the motivation now as a lender as using it as a carrot, because how often does balloons actually mature and people pay it off?
They usually don't pay them off with funds out of their bank account. Usually they go refinance.
That's what I figured. It's a refinance.
It's just a refinance plan ticket. Okay, this loan's due in 3 years. So what you may see happen is, look, we're going to go ahead and we're going to write you this loan. I'm going to amortize it over 30 years. So I'll set the payments up like you're making you're going to pay it off in 30 years. But I'm going to call it. It's going to have a balloon payment in 3, 5, 7 years.
That balloon payment's for everything that's owed.
Whatever's left over.
So let me ask you this: as a lender, I guess if you did it over 30 years, let's just say it's a $100,000 loan and whatever rate it's at, and at the end of 30 years, you'd end up making $400,000, but if you just did the 3-year, you'd probably just make a little bit, and then, it was $100,000, you'd probably only make like 150 or something like that more, or something, not as much as...
You don't make as much as if you let it play out the entire time, but
Right.
we know, if let's take an example. Let's look at a loan that somebody wrote.
Mm-hmm.
It's 300, they amortize it over 360 payments, so over a 30-year period.
Gotcha.
Right? And they have it due, a balloon payment due in 5 years.
Gotcha, okay.
We know a mortgage is front-end loaded with interest,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the principal balance payoff going to be in 5 years? Say it was a $100,000 loan.
It'll be
Within
$99,000.
$1,000 of what the original loan payment was?
Yeah.
So if you wrote it at 9.4% interest with a balloon payment that's due in 5 years, you're getting all your money back plus 9.4% interest.
Interesting. Yeah, I never thought about the fact that they're all front-loaded on amortized debt.
Mm-hmm. Makes it easier to sell it too.
I can see that because someone knows there's a payday coming.
Mm-hmm.
How much would you discount that though? Would
None.
Really?
Like that'll sell at par.
really?
Yeah, because you're not waiting so whenever a discount is figured or built in, it's because you're trying to figure out what's the time value of money.
Right.
What's it going to be worth in the future?
Mm-hmm.
What do I have to do to make everything work? What's it worth now?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Time value of money.
Right.
So if I'm trying to figure out the time value of money over a 30-year period, well, it's a lot easier to do it over a 5-year period,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you're not going to take a discount. The payoff is coming that much quicker.
Interesting.
Now, some people might want to discount. Most, they're like, I got to build in if they stop paying, something along those lines. But if you took money down, it's probably not an issue. Like, for instance, you sold a house for $240, you took $30,000 down. There's a $30,000 cushion there.
Right. Interesting. Another question. In terms of, let's say, God forbid, the borrower stops paying, and they only had a 3-year term, but then they had the balloon. What happens if they're like going in foreclosure or past the balloon? Are the terms written differently?
No, you foreclose on it.
So it'd be the same thing.
Still the same thing. What the more interesting thing is what happens if the borrower is making payments and they amortize it over 30 years and there's a balloon on year 5 and year 5 comes and they can't refinance.
Yeah, what happens then?
It's up to the lender.
Really?
The lender can foreclose and take the house back, or they can grant an extension. Usually what happens is an extension is granted, definitely in the owner finance world. Somebody's like, look, it's a paying asset. Just work on getting it paid off.
Interesting.
But you have to make sure that when you grant your extension, you write proper documents up. You can't just be like, okay, yeah, we'll try it again next year. Because you get into all sort of, legal issues.
It's interesting. Other question, are balloons only used for people that can't get usually traditional financing, or do actual banks use?
No. They're more common with different types of loans. Interest-only loans obviously have a balloon payment, right?
That's what we'll be covering next.
Adjustable rate mortgages, sometimes will have them. Banks will put them in there if it's a riskier lender. A lot of different reasons why the banks or the lenders will put them in there. It's not just for people who can't get loans.
Interesting. And so those are hot ticket items on the site?
Sure. Buyers sometimes will do balloon payments because they're lower interest. Like, it's a lower interest, but there's a balloon payment here.
And by the time, let's just say 3 years come by, if I was a bad borrower at day one, going to a different person to get a refinance, I could show 3 years of good payment history. And then
Potentially,
and if your credit's okay, whatever, you can probably get refinanced at a regular bank.
Yeah.
Interesting. What's ironic is that rates keep going up, so, you got to take that into play. Refinancing.
Absolutely.
Refinancing in 3 years from now. Yeah, I looked at stuff from my own house and I was like, nothing makes sense.
No, it doesn't.
Nothing makes sense. Huh, that's interesting. Okay, well, I think that's the gist of what I wanted to know for balloons, as why it would affect the borrower, why the borrower would want it. Apparently they don't, but they have a looming deadline of just saying, we'll go, it'll mature faster than your kids, so like, that's for sure, right?
Correct.
And then for the lender, it's good because they get a big payoff, and then as a resale on the site, it's great because that person can not take much of a discount, and turn around and sell it and be out and do it all over again. I'm assuming there's all still the same origination fees and all that other stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay, anything else to add?
No, I think we covered it.
Okay, cool. Well, then the next one we're going to get into is something similar questions that get asked on the site, so we'll be shooting that one soon. Stay tuned.
See ya.
Are you new to the mortgage note industry? Have you been wanting to learn the step-by-step process to purchase your first mortgage note? Well, you're in luck. We've convinced our CEO, Rick Allen, to break down everything he knows about mortgage note investing. Through a series of 50 videos, you'll get everything from start to finish of where to purchase notes, how to purchase notes, and all of Rick's investing techniques he has developed over the many years. From performing note tactics to non-performing notes, Rick gives you everything he knows about investing. Bonuses include our glossary of industry terms, Rick's own proprietary calculators he created to evaluate notes, discounts from our partners, our Rolodex of vendors, a private Facebook group, along with a lot more. We've packed so much content into the Academy to take you from beginner to expert in no time. To learn more about the Academy, go to academy.paperstac.com/welcome. Again, that is academy.paperstac.com/welcome.